What's up, minions? Lex DeVille here, and in this video we are going to answer some questions about client management and client handling techniques. Basically, I'm going to answer some questions that I got on the channel about how I would handle certain situations involving clients and client handling, client management. If that's something you're interested in, stick around. Hey minions, if you're new to the channel and you like what I have to say, then be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss a video. Only do this if you like what I have to say and if you want to hear more about freelancing, entrepreneurship, and personal world domination. For those who don't know me, I'm Lex DeVille, and on this channel we help you escape corporate prison and build a freelance empire. We share lots of freelance tips and tutorials, so if you're new, consider subscribing. We've got some questions on YouTube, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. There's some questions that came up on my video about client handling and client management techniques. Before I talk about that, I wanted to mention real quick that my newest course is about to drop. I'm sending it for publishing right after this video to Udemy, so it'll be on Udemy. It's going to be a freelance collections course, and I will have another course coming up, I think this month. It may be ready in a few days, I'm not sure yet. Upwork Profiles, Advanced Upwork Profiles 2. So if you've been looking forward to a new profiles course, it's going to be out there. This video, we're talking about client management, client handling, and I'm just going to switch my screen over. I'll show you the screen so that you can look through the questions with me, and I'll just read through them here. So I'm just going to scroll down. All of these questions came from advanced developers, and he just handed me a series of questions. I got to find out where do they start. Okay, where is the first one? 6, 5, 3. What happened to 4 and 1 and 2? Okay, I'm going to answer the ones that I see, because it looks like some questions may have disappeared. And we're going to start with number 1, which is situation 1. There's a newbie business, a good business holder who wants to hire a new employee remotely, and he has no experience in handling remote clients and giving them tasks. How to make them happy and make more money. All right, so if you are dealing with a new client, I'm going to assume this means somebody who's new to Upwork. He doesn't know how to operate on Upwork, doesn't know how things work on Upwork. My answer would be to make yourself very available to this person. They don't know what to expect. They probably come from an employee mentality or a hiring employee mentality. They are going to need some hand-holding from you. If you want to give them a really good experience that's going to make them happy, they're going to have a lot of questions. How do I set up a gig? How do I set up a milestone? How do I start the hourly job? How do I start the contract? They're going to want to know all of these things. For you to be able to answer those questions competently, it would really be a good idea for you to hire someone as a freelancer, create a free client account so that you can understand that process, what it looks like from the client side, and so that you have an understanding of going through the process from start to finish, actually hiring someone, even if it's just for a small job, so that you know what they're going through, and that way you can explain to them what the exact steps are to do each little thing that they might have. And you want to make yourself available for that. Yeah, it's kind of a free service. You're probably not going to get paid for answering their questions about Upwork, but it just adds value for the client, which is going to make them happy and make them want to give you more money. All right, situation number 2. How to handle clients who always want their work ASAP, and how to convince them to pay more for faster delivery. This question is pretty easy to answer. It starts with your client targeting. So it starts with the clients you are allowing yourself to work with in the first place. If you are a jack of all trades, if you promote yourself as a jack of all trades, if you are applying to gigs where the client is only paying a very small amount, they're looking for the lowest budget freelancers and things like that, then they are going to have these wild expectations that you are going to be frustrated by. To be honest, you're going to be frustrated by their expectations of wanting the work fast and also wanting things fast from you, but not wanting to pay for those things. And this is a real problem. So the way that you avoid this problem is there's kind of 2 things that I do that are the main ways I avoid this. The first thing I do is I'm very specific with the kind of clients I'm targeting. I target a niche, and because I target a niche, I only pull in the kind of clients who would be the right clients for me. And I guess maybe there's 3 things I do. I set my pricing really high, and because I price my services high, I'm not attracting people who don't want to pay very much. I'm attracting people at the higher end of the spectrum. I'm attracting businesses that have profitable businesses. I'm attracting people who have money to spend, who don't have time to waste, and who value my time and my skill as a freelancer. That's part of what having higher pay rates does for me. And then as far as getting them to pay for faster delivery and wanting work ASAP and not paying for those things, you can also avoid this by setting these expectations in your initial client calls. You can avoid these problems by building these things into your client services agreements. So for instance, whenever you start working with a client, and this doesn't necessarily have to be in a formal agreement, you can just make sure that it's very clear to them up front that you work at your own pace and you will deliver. If there is a set delivery date, then you need to put that in writing. Or if there's no delivery date, then you need to put that in writing maybe. If they are going to have to pay for faster delivery, then you need to state that up front before the contract even begins. You want to state this before the contract begins. Make sure they know it before they engage with you, before they hire you. Because if you try to tell them this after they hire you, then they're going to be upset because they're expecting you to deliver the work quickly and on time and for a reasonable price. And if you never discuss this with them before, then it breaks their expectations about working with you. So then they're going to be frustrated and it's going to lead to a negative experience for both of you, because you will be expecting that they should not expect these things of you, but it's natural for them to expect this, especially if they're a new client and they don't know much about working with freelancers. All right, so we're going to go on to situation number 3. It says, many times we deliver 100% work and the client was happy with our work and gives us a good 5-star review, and we will write we will hire him again. Oh, okay, they write that we will hire you again, but they don't hire you again. How to manipulate this situation. So you've delivered good work, the client likes it, they leave good feedback, and they say, we would love to hire you again. We would be happy to hire you again, or even we will hire you again. These are all statements that clients say pretty regularly, and it is a normal thing for clients to say this. And the challenge with it, I guess, is that it comes down to your expectations and the type of clients that you're working with. You might read this and expect that they're going to send you more work, and they might some point in the future, but that date in the future might be a year from now, it might be 2 years from now. I've had clients come back to me 2 to 3 years later and want to work with me again. So they did hire me again, it just took a long time. But a lot of clients just say that. They just say, I would hire this person again, or I would work with them again, even if they don't intend to. There's so much stuff that can happen in business. Some of these clients disappear, some of these clients go out of business, they decide to go back to jobs or whatever happens. And as a freelancer, I think the expectation should be that no matter what client you work with, expect that once this job is done, that's it, that you're probably not going to work with that client again. You should be looking for the next client to work with. Now, one way that you can kind of manipulate this situation is to work with clients. This is really about your client targeting. You can work with clients who are looking for long-term relationships. So you can also do things like only working with clients who have a certain amount to spend. If a client has maybe less than $1,000 to spend, maybe you don't work with that client, because whenever you're applying to jobs where a client has a short-term project, that's probably all they've got. Big websites, bigger clients, bigger companies, they're probably going to have more ongoing work. Most of this comes down to client targeting and the type of clients and jobs that you're applying to. If you spend more time filtering through clients, finding clients who are going to have a lot of needs and need ongoing work, then you're going to have a better chance of working with them on more than just one project. One other thing, I might have just forgot it. Well, I guess I forgot the other thing that I was going to say about that. So maybe I'll come back to that later, but that's the main thing. Look for clients who are bigger, who've got more ongoing needs. Oh, upsells. So let's say you are a web designer, but you also offer copywriting or some other service like that. So you start working on web design with them and the project's coming to an end, and maybe you say, hey, I was just wondering about your copywriting. Do you have any copywriting needs? Do you guys ever send emails? Who writes your website copy? You can ask questions like this in a project. And so maybe you wrap up the web design, but maybe you also discover that they need copywriting or emails or social media or a virtual assistant or any of these other things that you might do. And when they say yes, that opens up the conversation so that you can talk with that client about those services. And now you can offer them these additional services in addition to the initial service that you started the project on. And this is how you can expand the length of your gig. It's how you can earn more money over time. And that is how you can kind of manipulate this situation. One last thing that you could do is, of course, reach back out to clients. You can offer them discounts for working with you again. You can offer them maybe referral bonuses if they refer people to you. These are just some other ways to extend the life of the contract, extend the value of the overall client. Let's move on to it would be number 4, but I don't see number 4, so I'm going to move on to number 5. When a client says they want to hire for long-term or they need long-term collaboration, but they don't have patience during work and ends the contract on some mistakes. How to build a long-term relationship in this scenario, since every good professional makes some mistakes or sudden things happen. This is kind of the same as the scenario, I think it was for number 2. The main thing that you have to do is you have to establish these things up front, and preferably on a live call. But anywhere that you can establish them, you can say this whenever you're talking to a client in your messaging. You need to lay out expectations. The reason jobs go bad for freelancers is mostly about communication and expectations. So if there's a failure to communicate expectations, then the client doesn't know what to expect. So they just expect what they expect, and they set the expectations themselves. And then when you don't meet those expectations, now they end the contract and it becomes a negative feedback situation in some instances. Most jobs that don't end well has to do with poor communication between the freelancer and the client, and not having set expectations or expectations that are being broken. So if you want to avoid this, whenever you are messaging the client initially, whenever you guys first start talking before the gig has started, you need to say, hey, here's how I work. This is what my process is like. There are going to be some mistakes, and I need room to be able to fix those so that we can move forward and have a good long-term relationship. Whenever I do copywriting, I always establish this. So I always tell the client, okay, so here's what my process is. First, I'm going to write the copy. Then I'm going to send it over to you as a draft, and you're going to tell me how terrible it is. You're going to say, this sucks, all of these things sucks, get rid of all of this, and you're just going to tell me it's terrible and that it sucks. And then you're going to send it back to me. And from there, I'm going to make revisions. And once I make those revisions, I'll send it back to you again, and we'll get a little bit closer to the ideal that you have in mind. And then you're going to tell me what needs to go. I'll get rid of that, and I'll add more of the stuff that you like, and you'll send it back to me again, and I'll just do one more round of revisions. And then we should be where we need to be. I always give clients 2 rounds of revisions that are free, and then they can pay for additional revisions after that. Those are the ways that I set up to avoid this problem. All right, number 6. Many times clients message us and talk to us about a service they want and ask in the end, we will contact you soon after 30 to 40 minutes of discussion, but they don't. Why do they behave like this? Okay, I'm not sure I'm understanding this one. Many times client messages us and talks to us about a service. Okay, so you're saying this is before the job has started. So they're messaging you on Upwork. They're talking about a service that they want. But then after 30, 40 minutes of discussion, they don't hire you. That's my understanding of this. There's a couple reasons this happens. The number one reason this happens is because you're not getting on calls with them. And if you're not getting on calls with clients, then you're probably not dealing with professional clients, which means that there is a much lower chance of them hiring you, because the clients who are not getting on calls are usually not established businesses. Now, there are some who will there are good clients out there who don't get on calls. That's not to say every client who doesn't get on a call is not a good client, but a vast majority of the clients on Upwork do not want to get on calls because they are inexperienced business people. They are businesses that are startups. They don't have confidence in themselves or their business. They don't want to be sold on calls because they're afraid that they might not be able to deliver on the pricing. And there are so many limiting beliefs and problems with clients who do not get on calls that it ends up filtering the people who don't get on calls down the people who only communicate with freelancers through messages. Those clients largely tend to be lower paying clients, less experienced business people, and the kind of people who are often looking for the lowest rates. So they're not only talking to you for 30 or 40 minutes, wasting 30 to 40 minutes of your time, they're also talking to 3 or 4 other freelancers at the same time and getting as much information from you as they can. They're getting as much free content from you as they can. And then finally, if they even hire anyone at all, they're hiring whoever ends up being the lowest in that situation, which is why I'm always promoting getting on live calls with clients, because it's not just about how professional you look when you get on a live call or how professional you come across when you're on a phone call. It's also an indicator that the client on the other end is professional enough and has an established business that they don't mind getting on calls, because serious clients who own serious businesses do get on calls. They get on calls every single day, multiple times a day, with not only freelancers, but other supply chain managers and just people throughout their business, different CEOs. They're networking between companies, they're networking within the company, they're talking to freelancers and employees and people all day long on phone calls. So real businesses do not have problem getting on phone calls. When a client isn't willing to get on a phone call, that's usually a sign to me that they're not someone I would want to work with, because I have no problem getting on a phone call because it shows my level of professionalism. And you have to set expectations, you have to set standards for your clients. If you just go into this without expectations, without standards for clients, if you're willing to work with just anybody who sends you an offer or contacts you, then you're going to have most of these problems, which can all be avoided by targeting your clients, by picking a niche, by specializing in the kind of jobs that only certain kind of clients are going to want, and then also by only working with clients who are going to respect you and your time and who have real businesses where they can pay you real money ongoing. Those are my suggestions for this. I think that about wraps it up for these questions. Hopefully that has answered these questions well for you. And if you have additional questions, you guys can post them in a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this. Maybe you would handle things a little bit differently than I would. These are just responses off the top of my head about how I think I would handle these situations. So, and usually I don't have these problems for the most part. I mean, some of my clients do end a project and then those clients move on. Sometimes stuff happens in business, but for the most part, my clients are getting on calls with me. We have a good relationship throughout the project, and because we communicate back and forth a lot, and because I set expectations up front before we even start the project, we avoid most of these problems. So that would be probably my biggest piece of advice for you. So yeah, guys, I think that's about wraps it up for this one. Keep an eye out for the new course of the Advanced Upwork Profiles 2, and also for the Freelance Collections course that'll help you collect on non-paying clients who try to ditch you. That'll be coming up here in just a few days. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm Lex DeVille, and I will see you next time.